Hi there, folks, and welcome to a special edition here on Clock in the Gallop. We're talking Equus Awards. We've come to the end of another fantastic racing season. We're bang into the new season with 3 days in, and already some good racing we've seen on our screens in the last few days. We're joined by Jay August and Graham Hawkins. No strangers to a Clock in the Gallop show, because we've been on this program many occasions talking about feature racing seasons and which horses to look out for. Now we're talking about who potentially are the top performers in their various categories come August the 24th, when the final decision will be made as to who the big winners are, both equine and human, in the last 12 months. I have to start off with Graham Hawkins from a racing perspective on Saturday. Graham, that meeting, and I went on Twitter and I said it, I haven't seen racing like that for a long time in South Africa. That meeting for me was just out of the top drawer.
Fantastic days racing, absolutely fantastic days racing, right through the afternoon. And, you know, the Hong Kong Jockey Club Whirlpool Champions Cup delivered, as did the Marshall's World of Sport Gold Cup, as did the two-year-old features, etc. It's just a great pity. I thought the Champions Cup was one of the better races of the season, and I'm sad to see that the jockeys got so heavily punished for doing their best.
Yeah, that is true too. Jay August joins us on the line. Unfortunately, with load shedding having crept into the fray, we're unable to see him. But Jay, you must agree with Graham and myself that that really was, I mean, it ended off the season on a very high note for everyone.
Certainly did, Nico. I think the highlight was seeing Captain's Ransom win her first open race against Colts, and on a weight for age to boot, and then Jet Dark basically taking the horse of the year points table away from her with his win in his second win in the Champions Cup.
Now, why I've got both gentlemen on the show is we're talking Equus Awards, and the reason why I reached out to both Graham and Jay was because I was a bit concerned about what I was reading. Now, officially today, there's been a press release out issued by the Equus Awards Committee that explains how the awards are going to be chosen. And I want to firstly pick on Jay, if you don't mind, Jay, to tell us exactly the change from the past to the current. Let me just elaborate on that by saying that we're now following a Cartier Awards type of choice in terms of picking the winners, because 33% of the vote will belong to the points table, which is points amassed by each particular horse in group races, versus 33% chosen by the panel, and we'll come to who constitutes the panel, of which I'm lucky and privileged enough to be part of, and so is Graham. And then 33% to be chosen by the general public. Just explain to us the rationale behind changing the status quo for this year, and exactly how it will work.
So we looked at the Cartier Awards process, and it seemed to work fairly well with the three components, because you've got an initial points log which keeps interest going throughout the season, and it's a fairly objective measure because you've got races that accumulate points and wins in those. The expert panel is very similar to the process that has been followed previously. There'll be a slight change to the way the expert panel vote. And then, of course, the new component, completely new component, is the public vote, which is going to give us 3%. Now, the public vote is the part that we're probably the most unknowledgeable on, because we have to wait the result to see the participation and the interest. But just to give an example, on the Cartier Awards last year, I think there were 3,600, and to be exact, 48 votes, I think. So if we can get a tenth of that, we're probably lucky in South Africa. But if we got 3,600 votes, we'd be extremely happy, because that would indicate a fairly good spread of public participation, which should give you a fairly accurate result.
Now, I know that in the past, Graham, the panel come up with their final nomination. So they obviously sift through every single group winner, look at the holistic season, the whole season, and find out which horses are probably the 2 or 3 best. Sometimes there's a veto on just a unanimous vote. We're very seldom that happens, but there's only one nomination, which is automatically the award winner. But the judges would normally come up with 2 or 3 or even 4 nominations, even 5 at a stage. So that's effectively what the public will end up voting for. Is that right or not?
Not 100%, because we agreed at the beginning of the year that the nominees or the nominations in each of the categories would be driven by the points. So the points became the critical factor. The points have got a long memory. They stretch all the way back to the beginning of the season. As Jay explained, horses accumulated points based on grade 1, grade 2, grade 3 race outcomes, winners and placed horses. And so at the end of the season, the points were tallied. Jay has done a fantastic job looking after that section of the business for the Equus committee and making sure that the points were updated and are accurate and audited, etc. And so the log leaders became the nominees in the various categories. And it's based on these nominees that the judges will deliberate and also the public will vote.
And Jay has been kind enough, thanks to Jay over the last 24 hours, to send me some slides, which I'll talk you through now. And I'm just going to run through this. So this firstly is the points table summary. This is how many points horses earn by running first, second, third, or fourth in the various races. So you've got the different categories listed on the left-hand side, running from the Super Grade 1 through to the Durban July through an open weight for age. So Jay, talk us through that first slide. You've listed the points on the screen, and the distribution of the points, that's the word I was looking for, are very different. For example, in a Super Grade 1 to a Super Grade 2 to a Durban July. So what is a Super Grade 1? Just define that for us.
So what we did is we followed the Cartier system. So I think if you look at in the UK, you'll understand, or Europe rather, you'll understand that a horse in the UK being voted for under the Cartier system that wins the Prix de l'Arc Triomphe is a much better horse than, say, one of the smaller group ones like the Sussex Stakes or whatever. And we decided to pick Super Grade 1s based on them being weight for age races, them having scored highly amongst the APC handicappers on gradients in prior years and for the Longines ratings, and also attracting the best horses. We then also allocated 2 races per region. So the 6 races that qualified as Super Grade 1 were the Queen's Plate, Met, Horse Chestnut, Premier's Champions Challenge, the Gold Challenge, and the Champions Cup. Now, this is a reason, I was asked this question this morning, this is a reason why Jet Dark was able to pass Captain's Ransom at the very last hurdle, even though both won a Grade 1 in the last weekend. It's because the Mercury is seen as a normal Grade 1, and the Champions Cup was seen as a Super Grade 1 with 8 extra points.
Okay, so I think that's fair enough. Your summary of that. I'm then going to move on, Graham. I hope that you can see this. I'm just moving up now to the final award method. This is an equal weighting of the final points table, expert panel vote, and public vote, and then the weighting in each component. So let's stay with Jay. Jay, the Cartier Award slightly different because I noticed they have 40% on the points, 30% and 30%, whereas we're equal, 33 and a third, and 33 and a third, and 33 and a third. So you've given it equal weighting between the 3.
Correct. Yeah, we modeled various scenarios, and at the end of the day, I think we were quite comfortable that if the public vote had certain prerequisites built into it and checks and balances, that we were comfortable that there was a 1/3 each. I mean, it effectively gives a high skew towards an objective measurement and an expert panel. So the public has 1/3 of the vote. It's not a popularity contest per se, which I think some people may criticize it as. And then within each component, so within the 3 components, the points table, the panel vote, and the public vote, we will weight those as well, because in some instances, like Horse of the Year, it's a very close call as to who is the Horse of the Year between Jet Dark and Captain's Ransom. It's not a winner takes all scenario. I think a lot of people have looked at the voting and assumed it's going to be a winner takes all. So in other words, if Jet Dark is on top on the final points table, the expert panel agrees, but the public says Captain's Ransom, then effectively it's Jet Dark. It doesn't quite work that way. We weight each of the winners within each component
It's
so that there's a fair weighting across.
So just go further into that. How are you allowed to say how that's weighted?
Well, yeah, very simplistically, if you've got three horses and their respective scores in each component, let's say the top horse gets 5, the second horse gets 3, and the third horse gets 2 votes, then effectively the weighting is 50% for the winner, 30% for the second horse, and 20%. So that's effectively how it would work.
Okay, Graham, just your feeling on the public vote. I've made it clear on the group that we've got between us, on the WhatsApp group between us, that I'm in two minds about the public vote. Now, I look at things like, for example, the MTV People's Choice Awards. And I know you lived in Joburg for a long time. We had a very popular vote in Joburg called the Best of Joburg Awards. It was where people voted, for example, for the best restaurant or the best thing, but it was open to Joburg people, and it was just a public vote. Would it not be okay to create a separate thing altogether for the public to get involved? And so you have the normal Equus Awards, as it normally happened, but then on the night, you create 3 or 4 categories where you say, right, this is strictly only for the public. It's called the People's Choice Awards, and the public have a lot of buy-in, and it's really their award. No one interferes with it, and whatever they vote is the winner.
Yeah, I guess one can't discount that idea entirely, but just to take a step back, obviously you spoke about the status quo. For so many years now, the Equus Awards have been decided, the nominees and the outcome of the Equus Awards have been decided solely by a panel of judges. And that in itself drew some criticism. And Jay mentioned that we tested this model on prior years. I think it's a very important point to make. So what we did was, what Jay did, he did all the work, was that we took the previous 3 seasons, we allocated the points to the outcomes of those races in the 3 seasons, and we obviously looked at the judges panel. Obviously, we didn't have a history of public voting, and that's why this part of it is going to be a little bit of a learning curve for us. Right at the outset, we agreed that, firstly, the distribution of points may not be perfect. We understand that. We had to come up with a model, and we came up with a model as described in your first screen. It may, over time, need some tweaking. We may learn a lot about the public vote first time round and apply certain tweaks second time round. We're not suggesting at all that we've got this 100% correct. I'm confident that, notwithstanding that we may not have it 100% correct, that the Equus Awards will ultimately go to the deserving winners. I think there are enough checks and balances there to ensure that. But I think we wanted the public to be part of the official Equus Awards. Another important point that Jay made was that by introducing the points table, we didn't just chat about Equus Awards in the month of July as we headed towards August, and suddenly Equus Awards was on the table. By introducing the points table, which commenced earlier in the season, at least you're creating a discussion, you're creating logs, and logs always attract interest. And the idea was to try and ensure that the Equus Awards, even throughout the entire season, the discussion around the Equus Awards was on the table and was in front of mind. Whether we will have succeeded in our objective, that we'll obviously have to wait and see. Like I said, I'm absolutely confident that the right horses will be adjudged the Equus champions in the various categories. No one component is going to it's accumulation of the 3. The points speak volumes. The points speak volumes, and you've got to have a very good reason to vote against the points log lead in each of those categories, because they do speak volumes. There could be extenuating circumstances either this year or going forward. Horses sometimes get injured, they're off the track for 3 or 4 months, and you've got to take that into account. And that's where the human element comes in to balance out the points table. I mean, if you've got a horse that won everything in sight in the first half of the season, then he's injured and he's laid off for the rest of the season, doesn't make him less of a champion or her less of a champion or less of a candidate for awards on Equus night. But I'll be the first to admit that this was a change in strategy, and with a change in strategy based on international precedent, there's always a risk that we may not have got the formulas exactly right, although I'm confident we're just about there. We thought this through long and hard. We spent months before announcing that this was the way that the Equus Awards were going to be judged for the season end of 2022. And but no doubt there could be scope for tweaking going forward. But I think it's great that we involve the public. And yes, going back to your first point, I suppose down the line we could always introduce perhaps the most popular horse of the year. I wouldn't go as far as to say in too many different categories, but maybe for one or other reason a horse captured the imagination of the public, and that is the people's horse. We talk about the people's horse. We've used that label on horses over most recently with Comedy Ding. And maybe there could be one award going forward. It's not going to happen this year. We're stuck with what we have, and I'm confident that what we have is going to work and work well and stand up to public and audit scrutiny. But yes, I guess the idea that you've put on the table is something that the Equus Committee can contemplate going forward.
Okay, Jay, I'm going to come back to you because it's important for the public to note that the vote does open on Monday next week. So the 8th of August, it's throughout the whole of next week. So from the 8th to the 12th, I've got that on the screen at the moment. And people need to go across. Do they have to go to the website then to cast their votes? And how does it all work?
So yes, they will have to go to the website. You will have to register an email. The email will then have a PIN sent to it, and you'll be able to vote once from that email address. You'll have to vote for every single one of the categories. You won't be able to sort of cherry pick where you want to vote. So you're going to have to pick a winner in each and every category.
So if you don't pick a winner in each category, is that counted as a spoiled vote then?
Well, it simply won't accept at the end, so you won't be able to advance. You won't be able to lodge the vote.
Okay, so the only way that one could vote is through the website, www.equusawards.co.za. I've got that up on the screen. Just to quickly talk about the expert panel, Graham and I are privileged to be on part of the panel. It's not the first time that I've done this.
Just one thing, Nico, before we get onto the expert panel.
Yes.
It was interesting because the Cartier Awards last year, while we were studying what happens with the Cartier Awards in shaping our model for South Africa, I actually voted in the Cartier Awards. Okay. I was able to get on, and I, as a interested party from South Africa, looking at what was happening in Europe, and I got to vote, as did many other thousands. You heard I was one of the 3,600 people that voted. So and I enjoyed being part of that in my own small way. So I'm hoping that the racing public will take up the opportunity, vote not emotionally, but vote rationally, so that the public vote actually has credibility. It's up to the public to ensure that the public vote is credible and not emotional or irrational.
Yeah. And just quickly, what was your mark? What mark did you achieve in your voting?
I think that again, most of the horses in most of the categories stand out, and again, the points guide you. So unless you've got a very good reason for voting against the points, which you might have, you generally tend to go with the established champions and those that have put the. Obviously, there's always categories that are very tight.
Okay, so there's the expert panel, including a lot of commentators. Ken Nichols, a former handicapper, Vaughan Smith calls in Cape Town. Dees Dynant is a presenter and jockey's agent. Let's go down to the the final point. So Jay alluded to this earlier on, that Jet Dark, by courtesy of winning Super Grade 1s, has ended up with 4 more points than Captain's Ransom, who won 4 Group 1s during the course of the season. And it might have been a 5th, but that's up to conjecture as to what happened on July Day. But anyway, that's 4 points difference. Comedy Ding at 108 and Sparkling Water at 107. So this, Graham, just staying with you, is probably the most hotly contested debate between people. I know that people have already started speaking about it. We obviously have to remain pretty mum on the situation because we have our votes cast, but this will be long and hard debate between the judges.
Yeah, well, it looks an absolute tours race. I know there are 4 nominees that have been posted up on the screen, but if you look at the point situation, it ultimately, in my opinion, without giving away anything of which of the 2 I prefer, but it certainly looks a match race between Jet Dark and Captain's Ransom. And this is a good example of where, although the points is a guide, the points table a guide, obviously it's not that simple in this particular, it's not that cut and dried in this particular category. And the public that are voting are going to weigh up the fact that Captain's Ransom won 4 Group 1s and ended off the season by beating the Colts, which was a great win on Saturday in the Mercury Sprint, against Jet Dark, who won 2 Grade 1s through the season, both of those super. Then add to that, carrying top weight, ran a super second in the Hollywood Bets Durban July under 60 kilograms, giving a lot of weight away to the winner. For me, this looks a boat race between Jet Dark and Captain's Ransom. And to be honest, it's going to be very close. Yeah. The votes are going to be very close. Whether you're talking about the judges, without preempting anything, or whether you're talking about the public, it's going to be very close.
I don't want to go through all the categories, but just to scroll down, you've got the champion sprinter nominations, and all the nominations with all the points have been publicized. They actually came up yesterday with the final points table. Champion miler, we've got champion middle distance nominations, and Jay, you were instrumental, obviously, in tallying up the points for all of these, and did all the final tally over the weekend after the final big race meeting of the season.
Correct. Yes. I mean, it's quite a big audit job to make sure that we didn't slip up and make errors. But I think we're pretty confident that what we've produced in terms of points is 100% accurate.
Okay, guys. Well, I think that's basically where it is and where we've got to. As I mentioned earlier on, we are due to announce the results will be announced at special banquet, as they always are, on the 24th of August, so towards the end of the month, a bit later than normal. I think we thought it was held a bit earlier on. But we're crowning not only our equine champions, but also our human champions, Graham. And, well, it's been a magnificent season. Let's just quickly touch on some of them. Paul Peter, a phenomenal achievement. And not only winning the champion trainer title, but also breaking the record for the most number of wins in a season. It truly has been a quantum leap up for the training fraternity in terms of, firstly, the number of horses people train, and secondly, to achieve that amount of winners.
It's been an amazing season for Paul Peter. He was 3rd 2 years back. He was 2nd last year. He's taken the final step up to the championship podium. And what a hell of a nice guy he is too, and great family, and a wonderful achievement for Paul Peter to get his first title.
Jay, if I can just end off the conversation with you from a human element, just talking about the jockey ranks as well. We might have lost Lyle Hewitson and our former champion apprentice, Luke Ferraz, who still continue to fly the flag so high up in Hong Kong. But really, we for our top 3 jockeys almost to reach 200 winners plus each. I know the third one didn't, but Richard Ferree reached 200 on late in the season, only on the weekend. But that's also a magnificent achievement for jockeys to all be that high up in the order in terms of number of wins.
Absolutely. I always smile when I hear people concerned that we're losing jockeys overseas. But I think one thing that I've always understood about the South African environment is how quickly we replace those with others. So I think we've got some of the best jockeys in the world. There's no doubt that the training and the expertise that they get here in terms of jockeyship is world class. I just wish our horses would get a similar chance overseas.
Yeah, well, we all do that, and we know that there's an upcoming audit happening, hopefully in later this year, and more news on that to follow, I'm sure, here on Clock in the Gallop. Well, gents, I wanted to thank you for your time. I know there's a lot of water.
I think, Nico, again, I'm going to cut across you very quickly. I do think that at this segment of the show, Rachel deserves a mention as being champion apprentice. We've spoken about the champion trainer, the champion jockey. What a wonderful, wonderful fairy tale story it is for Rachel Venniker to become the first female champion apprentice in South Africa. And, it's just a wonderful story. And congratulations to Rachel.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you've butted in at the correct moment over there. There's some other stories doing the rounds about the apprentice thing, but we'll let her just achieve the award, pick up the award, and then move on from that. But you quite rightly,
He doesn't need any allowance, that's for sure.
yeah, she doesn't. She doesn't need an allowance, but she has started off today with an allowance. And to my knowledge, I don't know if she won with an allowance today, which will get her head scratching a bit further. Anyway, Graham, thanks so much. I look forward to debating the matters with you in our conference call. Jay, once again, thanks so much for coming on. I think we needed this show just to elaborate a bit for the public's sake on how they can get involved. And I'm sure many will in the next coming week. But thanks so much, guys, and enjoy the week of voting, the few weeks leading up to the Equus Awards, and hopefully the best horses are crowned champions in their particular categories. Thanks very much.
Thanks, Nico.